All right, y'all. Final topic of the night. We are at an hour and a half. I think, real quick, I just want to touch on. I did officially get to watch 28 years later, The Bone Temple. I don't remember if I ended up doing a chat or talk because when I did recently watch, or watched in theaters the other 28 years later. Did I say 28 days? No. I watched 28 years later the previous one because technically, if you don't know, I believe this series is meant to be. I think it's Danny Boyle is the guy that has made all of the 28 years later movies. Basically, yeah, I think this is supposed to end up being a trilogy because they had the previous movie that came out 7 months ago. That was called 28 Years Later. This is two, supposed to be 28 years later, The Bone Temple. And then there is supposed to be a third movie, but things are kind of in the air. There's a lot of people that are unsure whether this movie, the third one, is going to get made or not. If you don't know, the previous movie sold pretty well, didn't do incredible. It did okay numbers, but critically it was kind of not really received all that well. I liked it. But there was a lot of people that didn't really love the movie. This one is almost having the opposite effect. It almost seems as though The Bone Temple so far is critically being liked and well received, but financially this one's not doing as well as the previous one. So kind of the opposite effect is kind of happening with this one. I think what a lot of people like me are kind of worried about right now is as to whether we may not get a third one. I do think they have already said they are going to go on and continue on, luckily, and allow Danny Boyle to make his third. But it does sound as though this movie's not doing well, so it could be up in the air. I think they're going to make it. It doesn't make sense to only make 2 out of 3 movies. If you're going to waste money, why not make the third one and waste money anyways, just to see if you can, you know what I mean? Unless the studio is like, we don't want to waste that much money, but I just don't see why you wouldn't want to finish out your trilogy. So, thoughts on The Bone Temple. I really like this movie. I really liked it. I mean, granted, I liked the previous one. I think I ended up liking this one just a tiny bit more, but I will say, as a horror fan and someone who loves zombie movies and of the sort, again, I'm tired of people being mad that these movies don't have much zombies in them and stuff. These aren't your typical zombie movies. If you haven't been watching ever since the first movie, again, it's not really of like a virus. It is a virus, but it's more of like a rabies. It's like, what if some crazy form of rabies swept the globe? What would happen? You know what I mean? It's called a rage virus. So, again, and I really like this movie because they really play with a lot of those ideals and things of the sort. I'll try not to delve too much into spoilers, although I don't see how that could be any fun to hear me not talk about the spoilers. I would heavily recommend this movie, especially towards the end. There is a surprise or two that they throw in here. That definitely, one of the surprises, I was definitely like, what? They're doing this? I mean, it's one of those things where most people knew they were going to do what they did, but the fact that they ended up doing it and showing it is still really cool. I really like it. I like what it means for what the next one's going to possibly do. But yeah, again, that's all I'll say about the big surprise in the movie, is there is a big surprise, and it does lead up to something really cool that I think is going to be probably, if they didn't have that, I'm not sure if the third one would get made, but hopefully because of what could be stemming from that, I think there's going to be enough intrigue and people are going to be interested to see where things go there. But yeah, the rest of the movie, fantastic. I really liked it. I will say a large portion of this movie heavily revolves around 2 characters in particular. And those 2 characters, one is a zombie and one is a human character. And if you can't see on screen, this is one of the main characters of the movie if you don't know. This is a rage virus induced alpha zombie from the movie. They have in the series, or in the more recent series, they have these 2 different forms of zombies. They have your normies, your normal rage induced zombies, and then you have your alpha zombies who somehow, through some sort of, it's almost like some sort of evolutionary thing, have started to kind of grow beyond the zombies in a way. And yeah, the whole story just kind of revolves around there's this doctor who, from, you know, he's in the previous movie as well, played by Ray Fiennes, I think his name, Ralph Fiennes. If you don't know, Lord Voldemort, basically, from Harry Potter. Him and this zombie here, essentially, he ends up in the movie naming him eventually. He names him Samson, some sort of a Christian, I think it's like a Christian reference or something of the sort. But yeah, these two are your main characters of the movie, and it's so cool what they do with the story. Essentially, eventually, where they end up going here is Ray Fiennes here is he's a doctor. If you don't know, a doctor from the previous life, because in the normal time, in the normal history of the world, and he's just been kind of living out on his own amongst his bone temple, and he's, you know, he has like an entire. He calls it was it a mortuary or something? Where he has an entire temple made out of bones, simply because he's trying to create something that remembers the dead, remembers people that have long gone. It is very gross, but it is well-meaning, is what I think they, you know, is trying to get across. He essentially, from many years, I think it's, how many years has it been since the affected happens? Probably, I think it's like 7 to 10 years is how long this takes place after the events of, or actually it might actually be longer than that. It might be like 10 plus years post the events of the first 28 days later. But essentially what he's been doing is slowly over time, because he's a doctor and a researcher at heart, he's been slowly researching and learning more about the infected and the virus and the rage virus and everything. And they play with a really cool idea of what exactly are the zombies seeing that causes them to get so rageful at humans? Why are they so rageful at attacking humans? And he ends up coming up with a theory that rather than thinking of the virus, or thinking of it as a virus, something that is infecting people, what if the entire thing is psychological? What if the entire thing is all about what Samson and these other alphas and other zombies, what if the problem is just what they're seeing? Because they've become primal in you know, in nature, but why are they so rageful about their you know, how primal they become? And ipso facto, it ends up becoming a really cool idea of like him experimenting with Samson through medications, prescriptions and things of the sort, giving him different cocktails of different things, trying to fix his psychological, because he thinks it's like a psychological disorder. And if so facto, he ends up almost curing Samson. Almost curing, I won't say fully because I don't want to give away certain things, but he ends up curing aspects of Samson. And again, a lot of this just has to play on like, well, what does that mean for the rest of the zombies? What does it mean for Samson? Where could things be going? All of that is super intriguing, and I'm totally fascinated and down to see what's going on. Again, I hate to say it, you don't really see many zombies in this movie, mainly because the story isn't really about them. I mean, they're there in the world, so you at least know that they're there, but the whole story is just about the doctor, I can't remember his name, Dr. something. Oh, Kelsom. I think it's Kelson or Kelsom. So Dr. Kelsom and Samson is your two main characters in the movie. And then, of course, you also have the Jimmies. If you don't know, in the previous movie, or at the end of the previous movie, this whole movie, the main villain is this guy, Jimmy, who, him and his he has like a cult, essentially. So that's like the large portion of the movie, is the movie kind of revolving around the crazy Jimmies. He's got like these 7 fingers, which he comes up with his own cult, essentially. So he has like his own made up ideology of everything he believes in. Essentially, they're Satanists. So it's him. He believes that he's a Satanist, and all of his followers are people that don't really want to follow him, but they're scared of him and scared of upsetting Satan. So he has like this group of people, and they're like a band of misfits who go around killing people and doing terrible things because they believe in Satan. And that's essentially the story. And but the main reason we follow that group of the Jimmy and the Fingers is because our main character from the previous movie, I can't remember the kid's name, Spike. Okay, I'm remembering the characters. The main character from the movie Spike, from the previous movie Spike, he accidentally gets captured by them and gets roped into their little cult. So the whole movie just kind of revolves around Spike dealing with being a part of this cult that he's kind of gotten roped into. Through them being terrible and doing things, they come across Dr. Kelsum. Kelsum kind of becomes best friends with Samson. It's really touching and really cool. There's like scenes of them hanging out. The way he's able to kind of make Samson docile is, again, they kind of show it here, but ever since the previous movie, Kelsum has this blow dart, and he constantly, every time he sees a zombie or Samson, he shoots him with this blow dart that's filled with this cocktail that makes him docile. And that's how slowly over time, him doing this multiple times, because Samson keeps coming back, he thinks Samson keeps coming back because Samson wants to kill him because he's a zombie, rageful zombie who, hates him. But slowly over time, he begins to learn that Samson is like, this zombie is addicted to the cocktail that he keeps injecting him with. So that's why Samson keeps coming back. And every time Samson keeps coming back to him, Samson is slowly less and less rageful and is just coming back because he's addicted to a drug, which is super funny. So you have like this zombie rageful virus zombie alpha who like is just addicted to getting injected. So he keeps coming back to this doctor, and again, because Samson slowly keeps coming more and more docile, the Dr. Kelsum, slowly over time is like, well, something I'm doing is causing him to become docile. Why is that? And that's what I meant about, like, it slowly becomes a story of like him slowly uncovering that he thinks it's more of a psychological problem, which is really cool. Like whether people like it or not, this is probably one of the more like unique zombie stories or zombie ways of dealing with zombie apocalypse and a zombie virus that I've seen. And yeah, that's really all that the major stuff that's kind of happened in the movie. I'll be honest, there's really not a lot of plot elements within the movie. That is like your entire movie. It only takes place in like 2 locations, which is like why I love these movies so much. They're like they're big and they're wide scale, but they're really small in scale too. Like in terms of the story, it's wide scale, but in terms of like the movies themselves, they only take place in a couple locations. Oh yeah, here's your Jimmy. That's your main Jimmy. He's got like his own cult who like worships him and stuff, and they all dress up just like him. And I don't know, they kind of like, I will say, like, this guy that plays Jimmy, he ends up being he's actually a very good villain. I really enjoyed him. He comes off as a pretty believable Satanist. And I don't know, I really liked him, and I liked all the other characters. And that's basically it. I like it. It's not like it's not the scariest, it's not the most frightening horror zombie movie you've ever seen. But if you're looking for, I don't want to act like I'm an intellectual. If you're looking for a more meaningful and at least unique take on the zombie thing, 28 Days Later has always been that. Like, again, they haven't been super scary since like the first movie or the first or second movie, but I really like these movies because they play around with stuff and they're trying new things, and I don't know, I really enjoy it. I'm super kind of excited to see where they go with the next one. There are certain plot elements that aren't fully dealt with. I don't want to deal with much, but again, there is a major spoiler I won't touch on. I think that's something you guys should experience if you go out and watch it. But definitely what happens in the movie definitely has me more excited, more intrigued for the next one. The only hope with this series is, are we going to get another one? You know, who knows? I have no idea if we're going to get more to this series because of the money aspect. This movie is not doing particularly well, so hopefully, even though they may take a hit, hopefully eventually this movie breaks even, and that causes them to say, oh, let's just go ahead and make the next one. I'm hoping these movies make more in foreign markets because it's a British movie. Hopefully it makes up for it in in the national market versus domestic. I'm sure domestically this is not doing well, or domestic in America. Domestically, it's probably for us not doing well. I'm sure this being a British UK movie, hopefully the Brits in the UK are like flocking to this movie and are helping it out as much as they can. But I really enjoyed this movie. I overall love this series. Again, I don't mean to act like an intellectual or anything, but I like movies that are trying new things, that are thinking outside of the box a little bit in terms of, it's not just another zombie movie or whatever. Like as much as I liked the second movie, that is probably the most 28 Months Later is probably the most dispensable out of all of these movies, which is sad to say because it is like more frightening and more scary than these more recent ones. Delectable Toast says, "Would this be a good bedtime movie?" Joking, says Delectable. No. I will say there are some like really like touching scenes in this movie and the last movie. I cried in the last movie. It has such a sad scene that I thought. And this one has some like really touching scenes between Samson and Dr. Kelsom. But I like that it also has like some really gross scenes that you're like, ugh. So it's like, it's a really good mix. So, I don't know. Again, I kind of like that this series is trying different things. It's not just a story about zombies. If you're going in and expecting to be frightened every 5 minutes, you're not going to get it. You may get scared. I may have jumped maybe once in this movie, which is fine. I don't think you need more than that. On a more serious note, yeah, I gotta agree with you on it being such a unique take on the zombie genre, yeah. And again, what I was getting at with 28 Months Later is, even though I like 28 Months Later, it's got some scary stuff. It's definitely more scary than this movie, but it's the most dispensable out of all of them because I don't really remember there being any like true depth to the movie in terms of the story. There's one element of it, and that was with the dad and the daughter and the mother. And that whole thing gets resolved in that movie very early on. So again, there wasn't a heck of a whole lot to that movie, is what I'm saying. So, did I do it? I think I did a review of 28 Months Later, didn't I? I did a review of the first one. Eventually on ChazmanLIVE, we need to go back and watch some of my older videos. I would love to see how some of my older reviews and video game reviews and stuff stand up. Maybe next week. Maybe next week we'll... for ChazmanLIVE, we'll pick one of my older videos, and I would love to see how crappy those videos are. Might check it out, says Skylar. Yeah, I mean, it's tough to say. Like, I really enjoyed this movie, borderline loved it. I mean, if you don't at least get out to the theaters, at least when this comes out to streaming, I would say it's definitely I definitely recommend it to watch when it comes to streaming. But again, I think it's super important with this series to go into this with the right expectations of what you're watching. Do not go into this expecting Dawn of the Dead. Don't go into it expecting 28 Months Later levels of like spooky, scary. Like, go into it thinking like, I want to see a different take on zombies, and I want to see great acting, and again, this series has always kind of touched on like just what does humanity look like post the zombie apocalypse, but it doesn't do it in an uninteresting way. It does it in like the most interesting fashion, which I like. I don't know. That's my opinion. That's all I got to say. If you can't tell, I really liked 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple. Hopefully more people get out to go watch it so that we can get a third one. So.
Well, looks like you've reached the end, haven't you, you imbeciles? On EnterChazman, you'll witness gaming brilliance beyond your comprehension. ChazmanLIVE brings the drama. Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays at 5:30 p.m. EST. Longplays delivers full journeys, uncut and unspoiled. Join the Patreon, Discord, Instagram, and TikTok below, if you can manage it. Still not following EnterChazman? Then mediocrity clearly suits you.